Hey, welcome back to the Faithfully Fit podcast, video cast, video chat, however you want to classify it based on what you're watching on. But here's the deal. Really excited today. Get a chance to talk to my very good friend, Maddi Phillips. Now, Maddi has been incredibly patient because Maddi had to wait out a couple of things. One, you've heard me talk a little bit about my computer crashing. So Maddi was actually scheduled. She was the first person that I had scheduled on, like, I think, Maddi, was it like the day that my computer crashed? I feel like maybe.
Yes, it was the day of.
we were supposed to get together and chat, and it was the day of that I realized that my computer was no longer working. And so through all of that, she's been patient. She has also had to be patient through basically my oldness creeping in. We were joking. Maddi called me the other day as we were setting this time up. And I was like, I could have sworn that I messaged her, but Maddi's always really good about responding. So I was like, okay, clearly it's not her. So it's got to be me. Went back in my phone, realized I had typed out the message, never hit send. So poor Maddi. Maddi and I know each other because Maddi's parents were the very first gym, or they owned the very first CrossFit gym that I went to. And so all of the crazy life that I have begun to live, and this weird Faithfully Fit thing, and the travels, and a lot of that started right there at DSP with Maddi's family. Her brother was one of my workout partners for a long time. I actually officiated his wedding not too terribly long ago. So you would talk about really a deep connection with these families. Maddi actually came to me, was it a year ago now? Or was it last March? Maybe it was less than a year.
It was this year. I think okay, March of this year.
Yeah, March. So about a half, about 6 months, 6 months ago, and was talking to me about this opportunity that she had, this passion. Maddi has always had a passion for missions, and was actually going to go to Austin and start doing international student missions. Now, here's the deal: is I'm going to let Maddi talk to you a little bit about what it is she does specifically, because she has a better scope, and kind of let her introduce that to you. And I'm really excited about this conversation, because what Maddi doesn't know is that her passion and the way in which she described this actually lit something in me. So you're going to get to see Maddi firsthand respond to something that I've actually begun doing because of all the things that she has done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Maddi, so do me a favor. So tell everybody what it is that you're doing right now.
So what I do right now is I work for a company called International Friendships Incorporated, or IFI for short. And basically, IFI's mission goal is to make the world feel at home, specifically in our outreach with international students. So a big statistic a lot of people don't know is 80% of all international students never set foot in an American home. It's a very lonely experience, and very different than sort of the American idea of studying abroad. And that's where we step in. We not only want to meet these students' needs physically, we give a lot of rides to and from the airport. We help these students find furniture, again, something very different. A lot of these students will get their apartments and worry about furnishing them in the first months that they live there. But then we're also concerned with the spiritual aspect of it all. We have things like language learning partners. We have Bible studies. We call them family groups, where we have opportunities for these students to break sort of the habits of just studying and to get out of their houses and to get into other people's houses, into community. And just, yes, to truly just start connecting with each other and have us connecting with them. It's really cool. Most international students are coming from the areas of the world that either it's really difficult to go be a missionary in, or missionaries aren't allowed, or just the areas of the world that need the gospel the most are also the areas of the world that send the most international students to the US. Yeah. So it's just an amazing opportunity that I'm so excited to be a part of, because I truly love other cultures and learning about them. But at the same time, I have a huge heart for the American church and sort of equipping it to do its job. So getting to work with international students here in Austin has truly been a dream come true for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you said something really interesting. You talked about, so, I mean, we talk about studying abroad. And I think when people think about studying abroad, they think about, okay, obviously we're here. So it's easy to think about studying abroad being going from America to somewhere else. And you talk about what that looks like. And I think about it too, like the way in which American students, when they go abroad, you think about the things that they take in, you think about the culture that they absorb and the things they get to see. Do me a favor though, because you brought something up really interesting. Will you do me a favor? Try and describe what and I know there's lots of people from lots of different countries, but try and describe a lot of the students that you deal with. What does their life look like in terms of them coming here and studying abroad? You talked about 80% never set foot in an American household. So
and again, this is a generalization, but I think the American idea of studying abroad is about experiencing culture. The everywhere else that I've dealt with, it is a purely academic pursuit. Here in Texas, I look at the two big schools for me, A&M and UT, have enormous business and engineering programs, tech programs that are really attractive to international students. So they are coming over here. If the fact that they get to go means they're the best and the brightest, and they're investing in their future by coming over here to study and to get their degrees. Here in UT, we have undergrads all the way up to postdoc students, like extremely intelligent people who are using this opportunity to learn so that they can take their knowledge back home. So yes, so fun fact about International Student Ministry, we have to do our events on Fridays because if we did them on Tuesday, that's a study night.
Yeah.
And we've just found that we're going to get more people if we have our events on the weekend. So we're not encroaching on their time, because we want them to study. That's why they're here. We want them to be productive and successful, but that is their primary concern.
Yeah. So how does that play out then? I mean, you talk about some of the more practical aspects of your ministry, like meeting needs, in terms of giving rides, helping them with furnishings. How are some of those things? How does that play out in their lives and in the way in which you're reaching out to minister to them, seeing as how they're not necessarily here to experience culture and not necessarily here to make a bunch of relationships, when that's exactly what you're trying to do? What does that look like?
I think it works. I think they want to. I think that's kind of an important distinction, is they don't want to come. The idea is to study, but most of them, when offered the opportunity, like, hey, do you want to join this family group, or let's have an international potluck? They're excited to be there. They're excited to learn about the world just as much as we are. And I do have to say, I've been doing this not very long. I've just started working with students, so I can talk about my experience in the past 2 months or so. But a lot of students, just giving them the opportunity. That's a huge thing with rides. With students who don't have cars or don't have licenses, a lot of the time have to rely on public transportation. But when we have our family groups, we normally say, hey, let's meet at this one Starbucks in the center of campus. And I'll show up, I'll load up my car, and I'll drive them to family groups. But then also, when family groups are over, I take students back to their homes. And it's just giving them that opportunity where, okay, they don't have to spend an extra hour navigating the buses, or especially at night, like, we can take them home. And that's really cool for me, because it's extra one-on-one time with 4 or 5 students every week, that as I drive around, like, just we're in the car, we're chatting casually. And it's a really cool experience, just getting to know people, not on this grand level, but just doing little small daily acts of life with them.
Yeah. So, okay. So then, is International Friendships, is it like an organization that's on campus and that's how you hook up with international students, or how does that connection get made?
Yes. So again, my situation is very unique. I am currently the only person on the Austin, Texas team, and we are a
Really?
brand new team.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, which is exciting, and it's something I was really excited about, getting to sort of pioneer this new group. Um, I did think I'd maybe have one more team member by this point. Um, so I am not doing things on my own at the moment. And again, it speaks to just the grace of God that I've seen in this city. Is there is actually another international student organization that is letting me work with them
Oh wow. Yeah.
until we find more. It's so amazing that there is no pride or no, this is our group, you go do
Yeah.
your own thing. I have been welcomed in with open arms of getting to see this group called Bridges that is established in Austin, getting to see, okay, this is how they've run things for the past, I don't know how long they've been there. They've been in Austin for a while, but I get to learn because this is my first international ministry job. So
Yeah.
I'm getting to see how they connect with students, how they run their events, and just learn from them until one day, hopefully, I'll have a team where we can go out and do that ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. So you say new team in Austin. Is there other teams in other areas that you maybe have had contact with, or that's how you learned about it, and so got planted in Austin? How does that work?
Yes. So as of right now, I believe we have a couple of workers in Houston.
Hmm.
But IFI is primarily a Northeastern company. It started in Ohio in the 70s, and that is primarily where it is. I believe we're in 10 different states right now, but Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York are going to have multiple branches at multiple colleges.
Yeah.
Indiana, I don't remember
Oh
what the other ones are,
no, that's
but we're slowly moving. I believe we're trying to launch a Florida team, the Texas team. We're moving, we're expanding,
wow. That
and
brings a
yeah.
whole new aspect to all of this. That not only is this like a new thing for you in your life, this is a
Mhm.
this is a new thing for that area. That
Yes.
you have walked in there, and it's like, all right, Maddie, go get them.
It's been exciting. And again, just the way that the Lord worked, I found IFI truly through a Google search.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do ministry. I knew I wanted to be in Austin, and looking for jobs. I always say I couldn't escape IFI. The more I learned about it, just all the work I did, IFI was always the number one on my list. And after a while, I was like, okay, I think the Lord is telling me something.
Yeah.
And I've just loved working. The more I learned about what they did and their passions and their mission goals, I was like, oh, this is someone who I would proudly say I work for. And yes, but it's insane to think it was just truly like through Google and the Lord putting it in front of me that I'm here now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So I want to tell you, it's really funny. You were talking about something. And so I want to tell you about something that I have gotten involved in. And so this is really going to be interesting to see the way this plays out. But so Maddie comes and meets with me last March. We meet at a coffee shop, and she sits down and she goes through this presentation about about international students, about what she's wanting to go do. She's currently in the process of getting it set up. She's raising money because it is you raise money for the support, as
Yes,
a
yes.
lot of missions work is, especially a lot of at-home
Mhm,
missions work. And so
mhm.
she's going through that. And so we're talking about this, and she says something to me, and she's already said it here, and I don't know if it caught you guys the way it caught me, but I want to point this out. She said 80% of students never set foot
Mhm.
in an American home. I was like, wait, like I wasn't flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted, but I didn't disagree with her. But I was like, I didn't even know that. Like, okay, where I'm
Right.
from here in Temple, Texas, there's not a ton of international students,
Right.
and so like I never really, that interaction it was never much. It never caught my mind.
Mhm,
And Maddie, so I want to let you talk for a minute. You really hit on that. Why is that such an
mhm,
important part of this missions field for you, that they
mhm.
don't go out and set foot in someone's home?
Right. I think for me, there's a huge personal aspect to it. I was really lucky. I grew up doing missions, and I also studied abroad. So those two big instances of me, I went on my first overseas mission when I was 14. And I remember that very first night, and I went to Ukraine. So like someplace truly outside the realm of anything I'd ever known before. I actually still have it in my room, but one of the very first kids I met like pressed a bracelet into my hand and like just, hi, nice to meet you. Here's a bracelet. And I was so overwhelmed by love and community that it easily became like my second home and a place that I loved and viewed at as family and friends. And a very different experience when I studied abroad is those first couple weeks having no community and going out and finding a church, and then just sort of reveling in the after that first chunk of time with no community, all of a sudden being back in a community where I found a church that was planted by missionaries and being welcomed into their home immediately. When my mom and dad came to visit me, the pastor of the church that I went to in Spain let me invite my parents over to their house so I could cook my dad a birthday cake.
Oh,
And
wow.
just being welcomed into other countries and cultures had such a positive impact on my life that that's now what I do for a living for other students.
Yeah.
And so just getting to see the difference that hospitality has made in my own life, it's just changed everything for me.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's really funny. You talked about like kind of experiencing not having community when you first went and studied abroad, and then feeling welcome into that. It's funny because like we have similar things. I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but like you talk about that in my mental health journey. A big part of my mental health journey is that those moments when I got really isolated and actually lost community, not because I didn't have it around me, but because I wasn't interacting with it. And so it's why I reach out and why I try to create relationships, community. You do the same thing. So you were talking about that. You were talking about 80%. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like that, it blows my mind to think about that. And so shortly after you and I had our meeting, obviously I'm the college minister at our church. We have some young ladies that are heavily involved in our church. They're great leaders. And they also are involved in a group on campus, a group called Bridges International.
Oh my goodness.
Right? I didn't, yeah. And so I didn't know that you were doing this with Bridges International. Well, and so I was like, well, this is amazing. I was like, so I was asking, how can I get involved? How can I help? And so now me, but also, our church here at Taylor's Valley has become involved with the Bridges International on campus to try and help international students feel welcome, help them feel at home, help them enjoy a sense of community where and even a sense of community that goes a little bit beyond, because I know at UT, I mean, obviously, they have all kinds of international students. UMHB doesn't quite have that same
Right.
pull for international, but there are some. And so just the opportunity to try to make them feel at home. We've actually got I'm really excited about this. So one of the international students, we were talking about this. She can't go home, not can't, but because of the travel and the trip and everything, doesn't go home during Christmas. And I was like, wait, like not go home at all? And she's like, well, no. I was like, so you just sit here on campus during Christmas, like Harry Potter? And she's like, yeah. And so I was like, well, come over to my house. And she's like, well, it was really interesting because she was kind of, I don't know, she was really taken aback by that. I was like, no, like you're going to come to my house on Christmas. You're going to celebrate
Right.
Christmas with us because like that's what we do. And that's what you're not going to sit in your room on Christmas. And so that's those types of things. So you actually inspired me to get involved with that. And now that's become such a big part of my like the ministry that I have on campus, just because I love it. And it's really interesting because international students tend to be really reserved at first. And yet, but then the more that you interact with them, the more that you really see their personality show through, and more that you start to see some of these things that really make them incredibly interesting people.
That's So cool. I had no idea. That's so neat to hear.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So Maddi is the reason that I got hooked up with that. And so it's really fun. When you said Bridges, that you were working with Bridges as you're developing a team, I was like, oh my
So
gosh,
cool.
this is so cool. So oh yeah. Okay. So then Maddi, let me ask you this. Now this is a complete and fully loaded question, by the way.
Oh boy.
So Maddi, so how is it then? How is it then as a at-home missionary? How is it that you guys raise money?
Yes, so we raise money through a process called support raising.
Mhm.
And that is, I always like describing it, it's like building and utilizing the body of Christ.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're going to have a bunch of different people who all do radically different things, but who are all equally important parts of carrying out the gospel through things like monetary support, prayer, community. They enable me to do this job.
Mhm.
I could not do what I do without supporters. Especially, it is the most important is monetary support. That is where my salary comes from. That is where the ministry costs come from.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yes,
And so
that is how I make a living.
yeah, and so this is the deal, and I want to push this because Maddi is so sweet, and I don't know if you can hear it in her voice or you can see it on her face. She is so sweet, and she is so amazingly uncomfortable asking for that type of support. When it's really it's part of it's part of how this all functions. Is whenever we're
Yes.
talking about reaching out to people. I mean, and Maddi said it. Maddi, you said this amazing, and this is not something that I had known before. You talk about so many of these students that are coming here are from places that are difficult for people to actually go into as missionaries. And so this is their exposure to the gospel oftentimes.
Mhm.
And so the relationships that you build is so amazing. And those relationships through all of the things that you do open doors to those
Yeah.
conversations. And so, and so here's the deal: is Maddi is still raising money. Like Maddi is down there doing this and is constantly needing to fundraise. I can
Mhm.
guarantee you from knowing how missions work, Maddi is not living off of $120,000 a year salary.
Oh
Um,
no, no.
she's like shocked. Oh, no, no. So here's the thing: is if Maddi named several different ways that you can help. If you are maybe in the Austin area and you are interested in kind of helping come alongside Maddi and join her, that would be amazing. Continuing to create that community. I'm going to put in the notes of the podcast on the video. I'm going to pop it up. But Maddi's email is m.phillips@ifiusa.org. You don't have to try to remember that if you're not writing it down right now. I'm gonna put it there for you. And then there's also a website, one that just explains IFI. So maybe you can learn a little bit more. It's just www.ifipartners.org. But then through that, there is a link that you can actually go and support Maddi. It can be, they can set it up where it's monthly giving, where it's a one-time gift, however it functions. And I can tell you that that is incredibly important because that's one of the deals is that Maddi does, in the midst of this, she has to pay for her apartment. She has to pay for her gas. She has to pay for her groceries. And so
Things are expensive here.
yes, absolutely. And so you guys know me, like Faithfully Fit is not about like, hey, give us money. But I really wanted to push Maddi here. This is not going through Faithfully Fit. This is going straight to Maddi because what she's doing is amazing. It's what Faithfully Fit pushes. It's about relationships and she's building relationships. So like I said, all of these notes, I'm going to put them in notes. I'm going to put them on the screen. That way you can see them if you're interested whatsoever. But at the very least, do me a favor. Go and check out IFI. Just read about what they do.
Yes.
Hey, Maddi has a email that goes out monthly, so you can sign up for Maddi's newsletter, so you can keep up with what she's doing and hear about some of the awesome things. It's a lot of fun. I get it, and I get a chance to read it, and I have fun reading it every time. So.
Yay.
So Maddi, is there as we're kind of wrapping up now, I guess maybe you've picked that up.
Yeah.
I mean, anything, any other thoughts, anything that you want to make sure before we're done that people they know about or they're for sure hearing about or they're thinking about?
Just first off, this has been an incredible opportunity, one that I don't even think I understood the scope of until we started talking. And I'm so excited about just this opportunity and the fact that people who I maybe have never met will get to see this and learn a little bit about what I do. And it truly just emphasizes, I think the thing that I've learned the most throughout this entire process is just the power that God has. And one of the coolest things about working in ministry is so much of my job is seeing the work that the Lord is doing in the world. And every time somebody joins my support team, it's not my own power. It's I may have said some words, but it's God moving in people's hearts and me getting to truly see the benefits and the rewards, and then getting to go and take those and share them with students. And just to get to be a part of that process has been one of the most amazing and growing things in that I've ever done. And I am so excited to get to do more of it. As I raise support, I can put more of my time into these students. And it's something I just can't wait for. And
That's awesome.
yes.
That's I love it. It's obvious, like your passion really shows through, and your care, and so it's so exciting. Maddi, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
one thing for what you do, but thank you just for being here and talking and sharing your story, and good luck with your outreach. Good luck with your fundraising, and hopefully we can continue to have you making a difference in people's lives.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening and watching.